So let's do it. Launch control, M mode, traction control off, on manual, driver logic on 3, press the brake pedal, launch control active, release it. So this is the first BMW X3M. The X3 was always a forgotten car between the life cycles. It always has inherited the technologies in the end of the cycle. Always seems to be an outdated car, but not this one. This is the first BMW M, and on this new generation there is a lot of newer technologies and a new engine as well. The S58. Let's talk about this, and let's talk about the tuning that we did on this car, a stage 2 tune, and let's talk about the results as well. Okay? So the X3M, in one word, versatility. It's big enough for you to put your family, your whole family inside, but not as big as the X5, the huge X5, and not even as big as the colossal X7. So in between, it's very good. Also there is the 4x4 system. The M traction came from the M5 F90, which is a very good system. It distributes the torque between the axles in 100%. Actually, the car could be like a 4x2 on demand, and this is very good. Very, very good actually. Okay, I shouldn't be doing this. And also the height. The car is high enough to be used on our Brazilian roads with a lot of potholes, but agile enough. It doesn't lose its agileness, its dexterity, because the bushings are harder, they are stiffer, and the chassis, the two axles were reinforced with upper stiffer bars. And this is actually makes the car very, very stiff, and it has been a complaint source for this model. But on this car specifically, we went to a smaller wheel size, 1 inch lower, and a bigger, more chunkier, more meatier tire, and it's perfect. And also the new engine, the S58. Let's talk about the power figures and technical specs. Very fun. So the new X3M had the honor or the privilege to launch a new family of engines called the S58. So when BMW were releasing the first technical specs of this new engine family, we were very, very excited because we were already very fond of the previous generation, the original project of this engine family called B58. We've been working with these engines for a while, and potential and the capabilities of the B58 family are already well known on the market. So in comparison, the B58 and the S58 have a lot of similarities in between them. The displacement is the same, is a 3 liters engine. The numbers of cylinders, they are 6 cylinders, inline, turbocharged, direct gasoline injection, and water cooler system. But in all of the systems that composes this engine, we have a lot of upgrades. The turbocharger system are now not 1 but 2 turbochargers with a single scroll flux in the turbine side. The forged crankshaft has been through a weight reduction. Remember, this engine goes until 7,500 RPM. It revs a little bit more than the B58. We also have the forged connecting rods that came from the V8 on the M5, the S53. And we also have a double high pressure fuel pump system that goes to up to 350. And we also have a new water cooler system here on the vertical side, on the side of the engine, very different from the S55, the previous generation one, which was kind of here, thrown there. And also the water cooler system has 3 radiators here and one here in between the engine coolant radiator. So here at the engine bay, 2 things came to our attention. The first is this strut, the upper strut bar here. This is related to the rigidity of this car. On a normal car, we don't have this strut here. And what happens when you get a bump, for example, on the right side, the car, when it gets the bump, it flexes a little bit. The whole chassis flexes a little bit. When we have this strut bar at the top, we don't have this flexibility anymore. The car becomes very rigid. This gives a lot of handling improvement and a little bit of agility, but it makes the ride harsher as well. So this is one of the main reasons why this car is so stiff. And if we remove the upper strut bar, we get under it the carbon Venturi intake. Let's take a look. So here at the top of the engine, we have the airbox. It sits in between the engine and the bonnet, or the engine hood, if you prefer, and we can see it is made of carbon. It's very thin but strong, being this carbon, right? And this thinness releases the inlet sound, the turbo noises that we usually would hear if we wouldn't have the original lid here on. Removing the lid, we can see the project for the airbox. This is a very unusual project for an airbox. So we have the 2 front mainline feeds, air feeds that came from the front of the engine, from the car actually. They came from here. There is one here and another here, and they feed air here to this main gallery. Let's call it a main gallery, okay? And on each of the sides, we have air filter, actually 2 filters, in total of 4, for each of the turbos. So one of the turbos get its air feed from this box, and the other one gets its air feed from this box. Eventually did an improvement here on the filter material. So we can see the same material that they use on the conical filters. It is not a paper anymore, okay? It is that cotton-based material, which is less restrictive, so we won't have a pressure differential in between the outside and the inside of the box. Also, there is an improvement on the air feed to this box here at the front of the car. So we have these 2 inlets, carbon inlets, that forces air now with a positive pressure to this main gallery. So we have a more improved air feed system to the car, and that gives a better acceleration figures when we install this intake on a normal car. Not bad. So to talk about exhaust sounds, we first must remember the last generation, the S55 from the later M3M4s. They were not well known by the engine roar characteristics. They were very boring actually. And that was because those engines had the twin turbo configuration and the exhaust length were different. And in the end, the engine roar wasn't that good. Here is different. First, what we're hearing inside here, the passenger cabin, is not the engine sound. It is artificial. There is an ASD, or active sound design module here, which gets the RPM and the load values from the CAN network and simulates an artificial engine sound. But this engine doesn't have a bad exhaust sound actually. To hear it, we must first open the window, and then we can begin hearing the true exhaust sounds, which were much improved on this car. Let's talk about the exhaust. So the active sound design, it is a very new technology and very smart as well. but it is one of those inventions that shouldn't be made. Here we made another approach to the exhaust sound, real exhaust sound of this engine, with titanium, a better flow pattern, an improved sound design, and some exhaust tips made of carbon. All of this made this catback Akrapovic system that we install on this car, and now we can hear a better sound for this engine. More burbles and a few pops in between gear changes. Very much different from the S58 engines that we never really like it. This is much better. Let's now talk about power figures, okay? BMW declares the X3M originally on the competition version delivers 510 horsepower, engine horsepower, and 600 Newton meters of torque. And we've measured this car with a high octane fuel on its tank at our 4x4 dyno, and we've measured 400 horsepower at the wheels and 540 Newton meters of torque, okay? And after the modifications, the intake, the exhaust, and the tune for high octane numbers, we went to the 400 to the 500. So 100 wheel horsepower gains and 74 Newton meters of torque. So 20 Newton meters of torque of improvement. And this places these new generations around 100 horsepower more than the last generation, the S58. So this is a huge improvement. We can see it by the torque curve, where the turbochargers have more efficiency on the higher RPMs. So in between like 2,000, 3,000 RPM, the car is still with very low torque. So the torque comes up on the high ends. And comparing to other cars as well, this is a stage 3 tune on a B58 engine with a turbo improvement, and also the RS4 and the RS5 with the same 3 liters engine and 2 turbos deliver around 90 horsepower less. So the S58 is a huge improvement on generations here that must be considered. Of course, after tuning. Not bad. So this was our presentation for this new generation of engines, the S58 and also the X3M, with now a stage 2 tune and around 600 horsepower on the engine. A huge generation leap that must be considered here of engine potential. We might see on this year yet a stage 3 tune with turbo upgrades, and also you will see on this channel the new M3, which shares the same engine generation with a lot of peripherals that are different, but the core of the engine is the same one as this one. So don't lose the next videos, considering subscribing to this channel right now. We are still struggling in English right now, but we are going to get better as the videos come up. Don't forget the like button if you like this video and the results of this project. This video ends here. I'm Guilherme, and this is AvantGarde.